Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. Today we're taking a look at a battle between me playing as the Greenskins, going to be going up against a Beastmen opponent. And we've got two of the best regiments of renown in the game, in my opinion. In this battle, we've got the Ragnarok Queen here, and the Eye of Morslib. As for the rest of my army, I've got a couple of Black Orcs, a couple of Orc Arrow Boys, some Gobos up front, Grimgor leading the way, a couple of Spider Rider Archers, and the aforementioned Spider Riders, who have managed to catch those Centaurs with throwing axes. I did pop my wad just to make sure that I could win against those throwing axes, but probably a little bit of a blow your load early, if you will. For the Beastmen, we've got some Gore Herds, pretty good, the dual hand axe variant, that have quite good melee attack, good weapon strength as well. Of course, I have Morsley, we've got a Gore Bull, Brave Shaman Lore of Death, and Morgr the Shadow Gave, one group of Minotaurs with great weapons, and yeah, one group of Razor Gore Herds as well. In addition, there are some Centaurs with throwing axes that have been Vanguard deployed in the corner there. We are on the Mouth of the Pass map, so very thematic for the Greenskins here. You can see right off the bat those Centaurs with throwing axes pulling back. This Gore Bull is going to be responding, and since he's going to be separated quite a bit from the rest of his army, figured I had a pretty good opportunity to try and snipe him out with the Spider here. Obviously the Spider, 66 melee attack, heavy anti-large AP with poison, and of course with plenty of surrounding unit models as well, the Gore Bull's attacks will be distracted and won't be able to get necessarily on the Ragnarok Queen herself. We did put a Fist of Gork here, just so these Spider Riders can maybe do a little bit of damage to this Gore Bull while they're in melee. You can see a little bit of trickle coming in there, not too bad. Meanwhile, over here, I'm just throwing in some Spider Riders for a rear charge against these Gore Herds, just to kind of break up the opponent's formation a little bit here. Also, sending in these Spider Riders for a bit of a suicide mission against the Eye of Morslib here, mostly just so that it can't throw rocks as we start to make the final approach here. You can see this engagement is going to get underway here. These 8-peak loonies, we've got Gobos charging in here. Of course, both the Regiment of Renown melee Gobos, as you know, I am a huge fan of these guys. Black Orc's also going to be moving in. Grimgor as well. It's going to be pushing forward here, helping those Gobos to absolutely destroy those Gore Herd. And you can see here that the Queen, together with the Spiderlings, I did pull away the Spider Rider Archers to help go after the Minotaurs and stuff over here, has been able to deal with that Gore Bull very efficiently. So a great pick right off the start, but here come the Chaos Spawn in the center, bogging up those Black Orcs. I was going to try and push them up through this gap here, but now getting interrupted. And these Black Orcs, likewise, I did have them on an order to go up and around, but it looks like they did get a little bit hung up here. I'm a little bit blobbed up. These 4 units all fighting one Gore Herd is way too much. That's going to force some really nice blobs for that Eye of Morslib to throw into. So although the Gore Bull has been routed off, my opponent's definitely making some good damage there. And yeah, these are the two best regiments of renown in the game, in my opinion. What makes them so good? Well, the Eye of Morslib, the fact that it's a heavy artillery piece with massive damage. Being a regiment of renown, it's very accurate, has a faster refire rate, and it also has the only hard snare or cannot move ability for the Beastmen. And of course, we all know those are very, very competitive. As for the Queen here, she has one of the other most competitive type of abilities in the game, which is a summon. Of course, the Maternal Instinct is the only summon available for the Greenskins, and oftentimes the Greenskins are not that great in an attritional fight, in sort of a long, grindy match. So having that 5 pocket summons, just to give you a bit of extra padding in numbers, whether it's to chase off routing units like this, chase light cavalry, get rear charges, help support the Queen herself. It's, you know, it can be a good situation regardless. You can see in the back line, if we take a look here, my Orc Air Boys, I was hoping they would hold up okay against the Centaurs with throwing axes, which is why I didn't have too much support back here. And they're doing all right, but they're all also taking quite a bit of damage here. The Centaurs with throwing axes are pretty decent in melee, so tough situation there. The Gore Herds are pretty much all routed off in the front line, though. Sorry about my voice, guys. I'm a little under the weather. So we've got the Orc Shaman here and Grimgor Ironhide both having taken a bit of damage, but they were able to finish off the Deathcaster there. If we look, the Chariot's all broken down right here. So good stuff so far. You can see the Centaurs with great weapons going to get in here to support along with the Razor Gore Herds. Very nicely done with some armor-piercing damage. That being said, I do have these Spider Riders, which can fire in here with their poison bows. Very, very cost-effective against these expensive Minotaurs. This is one of the reasons why I really only like shielded Minotaurs, because despite the fact they did get some buffs, both the Great Weapon and the Dual Weapon variant are significantly better. The fact that they have less armor and no missile block chance is significant, and I mean, obviously I'm shooting them in the back here, so so they wouldn't necessarily be getting their missile block chance anyway. But just in general, I would say the shielded version, even with the buffs, are still going to be the best, just because of their higher defensive stats. They've got better melee defense, better armor, and that missile block chance. I believe it's a 55% missile block chance, which is pretty significant. Razorgore herds here, you can see they were able to do some good damage to the queen, but just not quite enough. I charged in here with my shaman. He's got a little bit overextended and is actually going to get routed off here, but we're going to get the Kaiju Battle underway once again. You can see Grimgor is chasing Morker away from the battlefield. I was hoping with some of these units here we could maybe catch up to him, but I am actually not going to be able to catch up to him, and my opponent's going to lead me on a wild goose chase, which is going to get Grimgor way out of position, so we'll check back with him in a minute. But meanwhile, for the main part of the battle here, I'm just regrouping some of my orcs and gobos, trying to get in here to finish off some of these high-value units. You see, I do still have one unit of Orc Airboys, relatively healthy, with a pretty good amount of ammunition left. One of the reasons why I like Orc Airboys, they're pretty decent melee combatants. They also have really nice missile damage. They're actually probably one of the most cost-effective archer units in the game, weirdly enough. 6 AP per shot is even better than like Empire and Dwarf crossbows. So yeah, very, very good units in pretty much any matchup, I would say. Even against matchups like the Vampire Counts or the Skaven, which I would normally not take infantry skirmish units because they're pretty vulnerable. The Orc Airboys, you know, they can stand up for themselves in melee reasonably well. You can see the one unit is gone. But anyway, back to the Kaiju Battle here. Let's zoom in for some cinematics of these two big boys duking it out. And the thing about the Spider that gives it, obviously, besides the anti-large, that gives it an advantage here is that the Spider is one of the heaviest units in the game in terms of mass, and it can easily knock over other monsters that actually have the ability to be knocked over, like Big Bird, you know, Giants, the Cygor as well, just getting absolutely bodied here by the big boy. Uses that warp gaze to make sure she can't move and going to try and get away here, but of course the Centaur is getting routed off. I've got these Orc Airboys, the Spider Riders also are going to be able to move in, keep this guy poisoned, you know, keep him slowed down and everything, so good situation. The Orc Shaman's back from route, but over here we've got some Chaos Spawn summoned on top of some tattered Black Orcs. I'm not honestly too worried about this. This did burn basically the Chaos Spawn summon. Yes, they probably will be able to beat these Black Orcs, but you know, they're doubtful going to be able to get it's doubtful that they are going to be able to get to the mainline fight here. Grimgor is still chasing Morker. Unfortunately now, though, he is severely separated, and with this, you know, some support here, with if the Centaurs charge over, maybe the Chaos Spawn, Grimgor might actually get taken down here, so a little bit of a dangerous situation. But meanwhile, up on the high ground, we have managed to finish off the Eye of Morslip here. You can see those Minotaurs with great weapons I tried to chase off, but they actually rallied right at the edge of the map. They're going to start trying to make their way up and around. You can see my Beastman opponent trying to consolidate some of his forces over here. His Centaurs are going to come over and start to get a full surround on Grimgor. And I was pretty confident that Grimgor could win, even if he did get surrounded by these Centaurs, but we'll see. We'll check back with him in just a minute. Over here, the Orc Shaman holding his leadership together, barely, which is very important. He's going to provide a nice encourage for all the units over here. But of course, the Spider, still very strong in the late game. I've still got 2 Spiderling summons in my back pocket. And the bows from the How to actually finish off the Cygor there, so way to go. And yeah, most people forget this guy actually does have a missile attack, and it does a pretty decent amount of damage, honestly. I mean, since there's multiple guys firing, it's kind of like a war wagon, right? But 5 AP per shot is actually not too bad on those shots with 19 overall missile damage, so pretty impressive. Of course, it does apply poison at range as well, so yeah. Again, the reason that these two, I consider them the best regiments for now in the game is because their special abilities are the most competitive. Summons and the Hard Snare are, again, 2 of the most competitive abilities that you can bring in the game, whether, you know, regardless of whether it's Nets of Amantok, a Manticore summon, Cygor summon, you know, obviously all of their undead summons with the zombies and crabs and whatnot, so Spiderlings, yeah, like I said, in this type of a late game situation, they give you a really, really nice tool, especially for like overwhelming and chasing very tattered units. You know, a fresh unit of Spiderlings, you know, obviously will be fresh in terms of their vigor, and it will allow them to chase units down, and they'll, you know, they won't be getting the debuffs of speed and armor and other stats that get debuffed when your units are tired. But you can see here, I threw in these Spider Rider archers. They do get routed off, but they do hold these guys long enough to get a little bit of ranged fire, which likewise does rout those Minotaurs off. Drop a model there, and the Howdah from the Ragnarok Queen will probably be enough to shatter them. But we're going to fast forward a little bit through this late game as I'm going to reconsolidate my forces. My opponent, you can see, did just finish off Grimgor there, so pretty unfortunate, but he was able to do a little bit of damage to some of these Centaurs and to Morgur and everything. So, yeah, my opponent's just going to rally his forces here. When Grimgor died, my Shaman wanted to run away, and then I very stupidly overcasted a Brain Burster, which did a bit of damage, but not really worth it, considering he blew himself up and is now running away with 3 HP left, so yeah. Unfortunately, that does mean I don't have any units to encourage here, so a lot of these guys are going to start to run into leadership issues, and that has put me behind on the balance of power a little bit in this late game situation. But I told my opponent, like, hey, I don't really want to chase you, so he's going to go ahead and circle up here, try and come in and force a good engagement. So here come these Centaurs for a quick hit and run on those Gobos. Probably will be able to rout them away, but likewise taking some Overwatch fire from the Orc Airboys. Meanwhile, from the other side, these Centaurs going to be charging into these Spider Riders here. You can see I did summon some Spiderlings. This is the first of 2 in this late game here, and the Spiderlings will be very, very key here in finishing off these Centaurs, because you can see my opponent tries to pull away with the Centaurs, but because they're no longer, well, they do still have their rowdy perfect vigor for the time being, but they're going to be continuously poisoned, and as they pull away, they're taking free hits from the Spiderling hatchlings and just taking continuous damage, that leadership damage as well. And the fact that the Spider is still so healthy, and I mean, Morkur does have 400 weapon strength, 55 melee attack. He can do some damage against the Spider, but it's going to take him a long time, and he will get staggered around pretty badly as well. You can see the Orc Airboys get charged here. Again, 23 attack, 34 weapon strength. They should be able to hit back for at least a couple hits here on these Centaurs with great weapons, but their leadership really not doing too well. Speaking of leadership not doing well, these Spiderlings, again, just super, super clutch here, chasing off those Centaurs with throwing axes. Going to be able to get rid of a couple of units there, and here comes the last Spiderling summon to help chase off this unit of Centaurs. So with that, it's going to be basically just Morkur versus the Spiders and the few Gobos that remain here. This one clutch group of Gobos in the late game is going to be very key here in that it will provide a distraction for Morgur. You can see there how he's attacking the Gobos rather than attacking the Spider, and then that also allows me to kind of cycle charge the Spider a little bit. I mean, it doesn't have the greatest charge bonus in the world, but if we have a look here, 40 charge bonus is not insignificant. So I definitely want to try and take advantage of that as much as possible. You can see me just kind of cycle charging here. Unfortunately, the Gobos do eventually rout, but keeping an eye on their leadership, I was like, oh, no, here they come. They're coming back. Bring me to my Gobos. And so here they come. Finally, in the late game, going to be back to finish off the foul. Shadowgate here, you can see he's at his healing cap. He's tanked out a lot of damage in this late game situation, but just doesn't really have the stopping power to deal with a big Spider like this. And, of course, the supporting Gobos being very key, as I mentioned. So, yeah, Morgur gets shattered, and that is game. So a very, very close game. Well played to my opponent, honestly. I figured I had some pretty good catches there, but, I mean, obviously getting Grimgor way separated was a huge mistake. I was thinking to myself, like, he'll be fine. He can beat down the Centaurs and Morgur, no problem, right? But I ended up actually taking too much damage there, which, you know, definitely a mistake on my part. If I had just kept him with the Spider the whole time, I think it might have turned out a little bit better. But, you know, obviously the Spider getting back, getting on the Eye of Morsleep was very key here, and routing off the Gorbel at the very start. All 5 summons were used, so that's why I say this was one of the best regiments for now in the game. Likewise, you can see the Eye of Morsleep doing some heavy lifting as well. 117 kills. Yeah, some good warp snares, despite the fact that I was focusing it with my big, armor-piercing anti-large Spider. It still managed to get a lot of work done, you know, and the XP Chevron for the Minotaurs with great weapons as well. They did okay. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of them here. I think he probably would have been better off to go with the shielded variant, or even better, the Regiment of Renown, Butchers of Kalkengard. Because the Greenskins don't have any access to fire damage, and they're also weak to terror, it's a no-brainer, in my opinion, to take the Butchers of Kalkengard here. They're shielded, they have the regeneration, they have the terror, and their, you know, elite Regiment of Renown status means they have massive melee defense as well. So I think that they're pretty much an auto pick here. Like, I would honestly probably just downgrade these Gore Herds to shielded Gore Herds, or even Ungors. I really don't think it's necessarily worth it to take more damage-focused infantry against the Greenskins. Greenskins are the best rush faction in the game, and so sort of, you know, trying to play into melee against them is just playing into their strengths, in my opinion. So I might have gone with a little bit of a wider, you know, lower tier build just to continuously feed bodies. And obviously, the Centaurs with great weapons, I haven't been using them much lately, but they are still a very potent tool for the Beastmen. You can see 110, 157, only 31 here, but some good XP chevrons all around. They were able to throw some axes at those Black Orcs and other high-value targets. Obviously, just didn't have quite enough left in the tank to finish off the Arachnoid Queen in the late game there, which, yeah, definitely very, very grateful for that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this Kaiju battle. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.